Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. It's me, your beautiful host, Steven, and I'm joined by Shane today. Shane, say hello.
What's up, nerds?
Nerds indeed. We love you all. We are back with a Precon upgrade. This time we're taking a look at the $300 upgrade for Shane's Peace Offering deck. Shane, I got to see the 100 in action a little bit. It was, for a group up deck, it's pretty terrifying. Shane, why don't you remind me what Miss Bumbleflower does for everyone at home that might not know as well?
This Bumbleflower is fantastic. She's one, a green, a white, and a blue for a 1/5, rabbit citizen with vigilance, and it says whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, it gains flying until end of turn. If this is the second time this ability resolves this turn, draw 2 cards. The idea of this deck out of the box is help your opponents draw a bunch of cards, and while you're doing so, you're also going to make your board really big, swing in probably over them because you're going to be having flying, and then if it happens twice in a turn, her trigger, you're drawing a bunch of cards. So yeah, you seem like a nice person, and then you're not. It's pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like a lot of group hug strategies, it's this boa constrictor strategy is what I like to say. It just slowly starts to coil around you until it just pops you. And it's very aggressive. Group hug is definitely not something to scoff at. Well, Shane, we're gonna jump right into these. Before we do, if you guys want to see the backup commander, that's going to be over on our Patreon. The link is down below. Let's go ahead and throw up on the screen all the additions from the $100 upgrade. Shane, are you changing anything?
Nope. I loved that. It was fantastic. All the ads from there coming right on over.
All right, fantastic. Well, those are up on the screen now. But before we get into the new additions, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, what's up, nerds? Today's video is sponsored by our good friends over at Evoke the Art, Bespoke Token Series. If you're looking for another way to upgrade your decks, Evoke the Art's got you covered. Their complete set comes with 50 tokens, 45 of which are double-sided, offering a diverse range of artwork and utility. Head on over to zaxxamastudios.etsy.com to pick up yours today. You can find the link in the description. Once again, huge thanks to Evoke the Art. Now let's get back to the video.
All right, now that we're back, beautiful sponsor, by the way, I got to say so myself. Shane, let's go ahead and jump into these additions. I am terrified to see what you threw into a $300 upgrade, so let's start with some creatures.
Don't be afraid, we're group hug, remember? You're gonna be loving magic. Especially with this first one. Actually, you won't be loving it. I'll be loving it. I'm putting in Consecrated Sphinx. 4 and 2 blue for a 4/6. Sphinx, it's got flying. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. That's pretty good, especially in a deck where I'm helping all my opponents draw a card. I would be very shocked if this card lives a whole cycle.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. After seeing the $100 and what it could do, uh, not even just in regard to helping us draw cards, but just how big your creatures could get, uh, that and then this make me want to hurt you.
No, I'm your friend. We're gonna be
You're
hugging.
right. We're gonna be hugging.
Especially with this next one too. Master of Ceremonies is going in my list. 3 and a white for a 3/4 Rhino Druid. Says at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chooses friends, you and that player each create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. For each player who chooses secrets, you and that player each draw a card. So we are giving your opponent a choice here, but I kind of think that all the choices are pretty good for you. So hey, we're group hug, right? We're all friends.
Yeah. I mean, this card's pretty cool because it really just depends on what your opponents need at that moment, and then you kind of get the same thing, which is pretty
Yep.
crazy.
Yep. I am a big fan of this card.
Speaking of things I'm not a fan of, what's this next creature?
Well, we don't like things being cast on our turn. So Grand Abolisher is going in the list. 2 white mana for a 2/2 human cleric. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities, artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Pretty straightforward, pretty good. We want to have our turn to ourselves. We don't want to share. We'll give you cards, but you can't do anything else.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, it's helping. What do you mean? Of course.
Helping and taxing don't sound the same.
Well, speaking of taxing, you probably won't like this one then. I'm putting in Esper Sentinel. For 1 white mana, it's a 1/1 human soldier. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. It's really cool. Paying 1, that's cool and all, but this deck can very easily pump this creature up pretty big to the point where they're not going to be able to pay the X anymore. So, really good.
Yeah, anytime you can put Esper Sentinel into a deck that gives it extra +1/+1 counters and buffs its power. It gets out of hand. It turns this tiny little one drop that might draw you a couple cards into this thing that'll just never go away.
Another card that I hope never goes away. Ledger Shredder's going in. For one in a blue, it's a 1/3 Bird Advisor. Got flying. Says whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. Conniving is super strong. You get to draw a card, discard a card, and if you discard a non-land card, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Really good in this deck. Dealing with counters, really good. Drawing cards, really good. And players tend to cast more than one spell each turn, especially when you're giving them cards.
Yeah, Ledger Shredder, solid include here. Probably one of my favorite cards from Yucapena. I think it's a solid card.
I would agree. It's a very, very good card.
All right, those look like all of the creatures. Let's talk about some non-permanent spells.
Well, we are a group hug deck, and there might be times where it's kind of hard to close out. So I wanted to add just a pretty nice, easy finisher. And that's Finale of Devastation. X and 2 green for sorcery. Search your library and or your graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get plus X and gain haste until end of turn. That's, I'm sure if you've seen this card, that's a finisher right there. You can go and grab anything you want, make it super big, and then just swing in with the team.
Yeah, Finale of Devastation really solid, and a lot of people like to use it as a finisher, like you were saying, but it's also really good for some recursion.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very
Yeah,
true.
or if you just want to find something in your library that'll help you out in that moment. I think this is a really good include, especially with everything you've thrown in here so far.
Yeah. The next card I'm putting in is Sink into Stupor. 1 and 2 blue for an instant. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. It also can be played for a land on the backside, just taps for a blue. It's a really good card because I like the fact that it can be a good removal piece if you need to, or just a land piece if you need to. Like all those cards that can do either or, I think slot great in a lot of decks just because it just has such flexibility. You need the land, cool. You need the removal, cool. Really good card though.
Yeah, I love putting in these MDFC cards into decks just because it really is versatile. If you need a land in that moment, you can just play it as a land, or if you do need that backside, it's right there for you.
Yep, I agree.
All right, jumping back into the permanents, I see some spicy ones.
Yeah, I mean, I never get to play with this card because I typically don't play with the +1/+1 counters, but I am now. So I'm putting in the Ozolith for 1 mana. It's a legendary artifact, and it says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. That's really good. Hunter always gets to play with this card because he plays with the counters, but this deck puts a lot of counters. So
Yeah, I mean, Ozolith with Miss Bumbleflower is, I mean, I don't know. I understand why you didn't put it in the 100 because it is very expensive, but now
yeah,
I got a little room. You got a little extra budget, buddy.
yeah. I mean, and hopefully one day it'll get reprinted. We always say that about cards we like, but who knows? I'm also putting in Venser's Journal, 5 mana for an artifact. It says you have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. Another fantastic way to have no max hand size in this deck. There are a couple in here, so it's kind of redundant, but it's just really good to have. And then that second line of text is kind of crazy because when I've been playing this, it's not uncommon to start your turn with 10, 11 cards in your hand, and you're just going to gain all that life. Like, hello?
Yeah, Vence's journal, really amazing. I do feel like every time, like we were goldfishing or when we played those $100 battles, you had so many cards in hand, and if you didn't have that no max hand size, you were just chucking so many cards away.
Yeah, very true.
I love the artifacts we added. Let's go ahead and move on to some enchantments. I see some good ones.
Yeah, I think they're very good. So in the 100, I did cut a couple of things that went and helped you ramp just because I didn't want to help your opponents ramp. But I'm putting in the burgeoning now because I think that's fantastic. 1 green mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is fantastic because it's not, accelerating your opponent's mana. It's just whenever they play one, you get to play one. So fantastic way to ramp up.
Yeah, Hunter added this into his $300 upgrade as well, and I just hate thinking that you both could have this in your starting hand.
That'd be hilarious, actually.
Oh, all right. Moving on to the next one.
I'm putting in a Court of Garenbrig. 1 and 2 green for an enchantment. When Court of Amprig enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. It also says at the beginning of your upkeep, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. Then, if you're the monarch, double the number of counters on each of your creatures. That's pretty crazy. I know that you might not always be the monarch, but you will have some chunky bodies to block, so hopefully people aren't attacking you. But just the ability to always put at least 2, and then if you are the monarch, to double all of them, that's crazy. And I love this court.
Yeah, that court's really good. I really do enjoy it just because Miss Bumbleflower does have vigilance, and if you're just able to give her a lot of +1/+1 counters and flying, you're able to swing in, get the monarch back, worst case. Or, I mean, to be honest with you, at least you have a chunky bunny blocker.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to some lands. I see a lot of good things here.
Yep. So in the 100, I put all the bond lands because they should always be in EDH decks, in my opinion, if you can. And now that we had a little bit more of a budget, I'm putting all the shock lands that I can. So Breeding Pool, Hollowed Fountain, and Temple Garden are all going in. They all enter the battlefield tapped unless you pay 2 life, and then they tap for the respective colors. So Breeding Pool is a green and a blue, Hollowed Fountain is a white and a blue, and Temple Garden is a green and a white. I think they're always kind of like my second go-to to put in. The bonds are always the first, and then these are always the second.
Yeah, the shock lands are pretty solid. I have all of them except Breeding Pool, so hopefully soon.
I believe in you.
All right, but that looks like all the additions. Yeah.
That's it, man. Those are all that I put in.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's all you put in. Those were some pretty good cards you threw in that deck, Shane. But obviously, with good cards being added, we do have to get rid of some cards to make room for those spicy includes. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and throw up on the screen all the removals from the $100 upgrade. Shane, are you changing anything in that aspect?
Nope. I still believe in all the ones I cut then. I'm going to be removing them as well from this list.
All right, fantastic. Well, those are on the screen now. Everyone take a good look. Get rid of them. Shane says they're gone. They got to go.
Uh,
But let's jump into the new ones now. Shane, let's talk about these creatures first.
yep. First creature I'm getting rid of is Baird, Steward of Argive. It's 2 and 2 white for a 2/4 human soldier. Got vigilance, and it says creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Pretty cute effect, but it's kind of fragile because it's a creature. And we also already have Ghostly Prism, so it's like, that's just better. And I just didn't need this creature anymore, so I cut it. I'm getting rid of Jolly Gerbils for 1 and a white. It's a 2/3 hamster citizen. It says whenever you gift a card, draw a card. Pretty cute. The gift mechanic is new in this set, so there's not too many. There is a handful, I guess, in this deck out of the box, so I can see why it was in there. But it's not a critical mass in my opinion to really warrant this as a include. So I got it out of there and added some better cards.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, with maybe 4 or 5 cards in your deck, gifting cards to just basically have one card in hopes that you have them in your hand or draw into them doesn't really make much sense. Plus, you're already drawing so much. Yeah, easy cut.
You truly are drawing an absurd amount of cards in this deck. I'm also cutting Spore Frog for 1 green mana. The 1/1 frog. Sacrifice Spore Frog. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Another pretty cute effect, but this is just kind of like a one and done. We threw in Socrates, so I feel like that's kind of a better, more permanent way that you could do this over and over again if you draw into that one. So that's kind of like a strict 1-for-1 in my opinion there. But Spore Frog, it's kind of cool. Just very meh, whatever. I'm also getting rid of Steelbur Champion. 2 and a white for a 1/1 Mouse Soldier. It has Offspring for 1 and a white. It has Vigilance. And whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. That's cool. It's a cool effect. It could be a little pricey if you want to be Offspringing that as well. It's going to slowly grow. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like we have other cards in this deck that are doing similar things, and I just didn't want to keep this one in there because I like what I put it in. So I cut it out. Similarly, Sunscorch Regent, another card that kind of does similar things to that. 3 and 2 white for a 4/3 dragon. It's got flying. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a 1/1 counter on this card and you gain 1 life. Again, not horrible. I don't think that it's a horrible card, but I just think that it isn't that needed anymore, honestly. My commander would be bigger than this thing at times, and it had flying. Like, I know it's a little redundant, but 5 mana too. Just, I didn't like it. I cut it out of there when I was playing it.
Yeah, I mean, Sunscorch Region is a good card. I just don't think it's in this deck.
Yeah.
All right, creature removals making sense to me so far. Let's go ahead and talk about some other cards, maybe some non-permanents this time.
Yeah, we're going to get rid of a couple instants. Broken Wings is coming out for me. It's 2 and a green. Instant. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Those are all pretty relevant. The creature part is kind of a bummer just because it's not any creature, obviously. But it is decent artifact or enchantment removal. It's just a little heavy. 3 mana. I don't always want to leave that up on my turn if I don't have to. I know that it could be used in a pinch, and it's not a bad card again. So if you're on a budget, keep it in there. But I just wanted to make the deck hum a little bit better, so I cut it out. I'm also be cutting out Illusionist Gambit, 2 and 2 blue for an instant. Cast the spell only during the declare blocker step on an opponent's turn. It also says remove all attacking creatures from combat and untap them. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Each of those creatures attacks that combat if able. They can attack you or planeswalkers you control that combat. That's a lot, I know. Basically, this is a card that you play to save yourself and then have someone get hit for a lot, potentially, I guess. I think in theory, this card is really cool. Seems like it's really good. I've never really had it shine, in my opinion. Kind of just sticks around in my hand and does nothing. So I cut it out and added something I thought was a little more spicy.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down to one of those things, and I like to say this a lot, and some people agree with me, some people don't. For 4 mana being held up on your turn, I think it's one of those things where it's just like you could do a lot of other things. And with your commander doing everything it's doing, drawing you cards, you can just draw a different answer. I don't really think this is a place here.
Yep, I agree. I'm also getting rid of Perplexing Test, 3 and 2 blue for an instant. Choose one. Return all creature tokens to their owner's hands. Return all non-token creatures to their owner's hands. So it's kind of like either getting rid of all tokens or all creatures. Again, that's cool. 5 mana you're holding up for that. And I did add a better board wipe, in my opinion, in the 100. So that's still going to stay in there. So I just didn't think that this was necessary, honestly. So I cut it out. I'm also cutting out Secret Rendezvous for 1 and 2 white. It's a sorcery. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. I'm not a big fan of giving someone 3 cards in one instant. That kind of seems scary to me. If I'm going to give you some cards, I'm kind of give you a couple. I don't know. I kind of wanted to draw the line at 3 cards is a lot in one foul swoop. So I didn't really like this card for the backup either, so I did cut it out of that. So it's just not one of my favorite cards, honestly.
Yeah, you're wanting to give your opponents 1 card, not 3.
Dude, I'll give you one, and then I'll go the next person one. In my opinion, when I played this deck, I didn't really focus on just one person and making them like beefed up. And this card just says, "Hey, you one person, take 3." Granted, I know you are taking 3 as well, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that exchange.
Fair enough. Well, you did add 2 enchantments. I do see 2 enchantments getting removed.
Yeah, enchantment aura is close enough, but yeah, Martial Impetus is coming out for me. 2 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and is goaded. It also says whenever enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets 1/1 until end of turn. I really like this card. Don't get me wrong. Really good card. Just not in this build. If I'm playing an enchantment aura deck, this is 100% going to be in it. Uh, this is just random, my opinion. I get that it's goading something, so it's kind of like protecting them, or protecting you, I guess, and then causing some chaos around the board, but I don't know. If you're not playing an enchantment aura deck, I don't like it in this build. Same thing goes for Tenuous Truce. 1 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchant opponent this time. At the beginning of enchanted opponent's end step, you and that player draw a card. When you attack enchanted opponent or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you or a planeswalker you control, sacrifice Tenuous Truce. Again, you're going to be chanting someone and then making them kind of like your buddy for a little bit, but it just seems again redundant because I was doing this so often already in the game. I didn't need this to also be happening. I don't, and then also gives them the choice of like when they break the truce. It just seemed that, like it didn't need to be in the deck, honestly. So I cut it.
Yeah, you're trying to build like a Staxy deck. This isn't. I mean, it's not Staxy enough for you.
It's not. Well, the 300 might be a little stacksy, you're right?
All right, let's go ahead and talk about the lands now. I hate these cards.
That's a strong word. I'll say I don't like them, but Thriving Grove, Thriving Heath, and Thriving Isle all coming out for me. They all enter the battlefield tapped always, and when they enter the battlefield, you choose a color other than the one that's on the card. So the Grove is always going to tap for a green, and then another one. Heath will always tap for a white and another one, and Isle is a blue or another one. I just don't like the fact that they come in tapped. They're just, I don't know, they're just weird. They're common for a reason. I got them out. They're just strictly worse than Shocks.
Yeah, then you got to remember what other
That's
color it taps for.
that's true too.
That's why I get rid of them. I don't want to remember things. Triggers? What?
I have a hard time remembering triggers as it is. You're right.
But Shane, is that it? Are those all the removals?
That's it, man. That's my list.
All right, fantastic. Well, you were given a budget of $300 for this upgrade. Where are we sitting at with this?
At the time of recording, if you just take the $100 editions and these editions, it'll be coming out to $301. A little over budget, I know, but it's okay.
Yeah, a little disappointed in you.
Don't be. It's okay.
It's all right. Hunter went over budget, and he never goes over budget.
Then I'm allowed to, I think.
Yes, and I go over budget every video. All right, Shane. Well, obviously, I love the deck. Group Hug is definitely something I've always wanted to try and tinker with. And after seeing the way you've built this deck, I think I might actually try it eventually now.
Hmm.
But with that being said, with the $100, the $300 editions, what are your final thoughts on Miss Bumbleflower?
I will just sum it up to being happily surprised. We do all these upgrades randomly. Some people know that. And when I got this deck randomly, I was kind of bummed. I was like, cool, I get the one that does nothing. But then playing with it and testing with it, like this card, this deck does a lot more than nothing. I'll tell you that. I had a ton of fun. I was enjoying just giving you guys cards. I didn't even care what I gave you because I was just having an insane board. So if you are hesitant about Group Hug, I understand that, but give it a try.
All right, give it a try. You heard it here first. Well, that's going to conclude the video. In the description down below, you're going to see a bunch of links. One to our Patreon. You actually see a lot of their names going across the video right now. Thank you to everybody that supports us on Patreon. If you do want to see what they are seeing that's not on YouTube, go ahead and click that link. Also down below, go ahead and let Shane know in the comments. What would you have added to his list? What would you not have removed from his list? We love reading the comments. We're always checking it out. We appreciate all those comments. Also, while you're down there, go ahead and give the video a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any fun content that we're posting. And then feel free to check us out on all of our social media. It is @GuysThatMagic for Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok even. But until the next video, I hope you have a Guys That Magic day.
Bye.